everyone. My name is Rosen. I am going to be leading our webinar today on the most creative and engaging virtual events we have seen on the Mobilize platform in the last month. This month, it's obviously in the month of May. Quick agenda, I will introduce myself. I will give a 5-minute briefer on who we are and what we do here at Mobilize. And then, as you can see on the screen, I will run through the different types of events we'll be showing off today, all hosted by our wonderful partners. And then at the very end, I will make sure that everyone who has watched this webinar knows how to get in touch with us here at Mobilize if you have any questions about your current Mobilize account, or if you're not currently a partner of ours and you want to learn how to jump on board. We would, of course, love to have you. Obviously, this is not a normal week. We recognize that. That's why you are watching this probably not Wednesday at 2 p.m. as this webinar was originally scheduled. We felt that it was no longer appropriate to host this at the normal time. We wanted to give you all some time in your day back and in your week back to hopefully get involved and participate in an event or watch a piece of content that is hosted by Black voices rather than us. So I hope you'll understand why we had the last minute schedule change. That's why, again, you're watching a recording of this webinar rather than viewing it live. A quick statement. Our mission, as you probably know, is to connect people and organizations to make the world a more just, inclusive, and democratic place. The most recent examples of police brutality have left us devastated and very angry. We believe and we know that Black Lives Matter, and we will always stand with those fighting against systemic racism in our own country. Because of this, as I said, we've moved this webinar, giving you time back in your day to get involved in the racial justice movement. In the email that you received with the recording to this webinar, we have listed our own suggestions for how to get involved. Obviously, you all have your own resources and your own preferences, but we do encourage you to do that in whichever way that you can. So without further ado, let's jump in. So our preface, the reason we really exist here at Mobilize is because we believe that supporters are the key to unlocking your mission. We believe that supporters are your most important resource. So whether you are an advocacy group trying to move the needle on a piece of legislation, if you are trying to register as many voters as possible to vote, whatever it is, your supporters, your members, and then your future members that hopefully you will use Mobilize to recruit, those folks are the key to unlocking your mission. So we are here to help you grow your list, to gain more supporters, and then of course to engage with those supporters once they have joined your network. A couple quick stats. First is that supporters who volunteer are 2 times more likely to donate. We track all of this on the back end. So we track volunteer behavior, what they do before and after they volunteer. And we find that they are more likely to donate once they have committed a couple of hours to volunteering with your organization. We've calculated the average cost of a volunteer shift to each and every organization. It's estimated to be about $21. As you can imagine, we are constantly working at Mobilize to bring those costs down for you. That comes into a lot of product decisions we've made, making it as easy as possible for you all to recruit new volunteers and to activate them, again, once they've joined your network. The third thing we like to talk about is, again, these supporters are your most important resource because they are recruiting more supporters and helping your organization grow. So if you are using Mobilize, you know that our social recruitment tools make it very easy for your supporters to bring their friends, their family, their colleague into the fold. And then the last piece of this is that we have calculated that 1 volunteer shift roughly equals 1 new vote. We have a very important election coming up. Today is actually election day in, I think, 7 states, including the one where I'm located in DC. So I think that's top of mind for most of us. So as I hope I've made clear, at Mobilize, we are laser focused on helping each and every one of our partners drive more action more easily to achieve your mission. We do this through 3 different ways. I like to call this the 3 buckets of our work. The first is in supporter recruitment. I think I've made that clear through social recruitment, through the easy ways that you can incorporate Mobilize into each and every one of your communications channels. We make it really, really easy to grow your list and grow your network. The next piece is increasing supporter engagement. So again, once you've brought those folks into the fold, making sure that they show up again, making sure that they donate, that they bring their friends, that they post on social. So it's not enough to just have someone show up one time. You really need to nurture that supporter or that lead to your organization to make sure that they come back again and again. And then the last piece of this is the network. So we're really proud to have built this network of hundreds of progressive causes and campaigns onto Mobilize. Each and every one of you benefits from the next partner who joins, because more and more volunteers' eyes are now going to be on each and every one of your pieces of content. We recently hit an exciting milestone, which is 2 million volunteers using the platform. So coming to the platform, looking for opportunities to advocate for a cause that they believe in, to discover a new cause, discover a new candidate, whatever that may be. So with that, we will jump into the meat of this presentation, which is really wonderful events that have taken place on the platform in the last couple weeks. This first section is going to focus heavily on racial justice events. So this presentation is a little bit more somber than it usually is, and a warning for those of you who are grappling with this day in and day out. We're going to be talking about this for a couple minutes, so I want everyone to know what's coming. So the first event that we're really excited to show off is hosted by Michigan Organizing 2020. So this is the Michigan affiliate of Organizing 2020, which is this wonderful organization that is basically building an organizing infrastructure in states all over the country leading up to the November election. This event is a mental health roundtable led by Black folks, primarily attended by their Black members, basically just talking about how we can each support each other during this extremely difficult time. They have recruited a lot of fantastic mental health professionals to lead the panels, to offer resources to everyone who partakes. So again, this is an organizing group set up primarily for this November election, but they are taking the time to equip their supporters with the necessary mental health resources to get through and continue getting through this extremely difficult time. I imagine that this work they're doing is going to empower their supporters and help their supporters to continue organizing around the shared goal of why they originally set themselves up as an organization. The next event is this veteran community conversation with Vets for the People. This is a platform for vets of color to, again, get together. This is pretty much another roundtable to talk about unique experiences that vets of color have collectively experienced. This took place last Friday night. I think there was something special about having it happen on a Friday night, just being, this is what I'm devoting my Friday night to. The week is over. It was an exhausting week, but this is what I want to do. I want to spend time with other folks who have suffered from similar experiences as me. And this is obviously a very specific community that, again, has this specific shared experience. I know this event was really highly attended and highly regarded. This next event, this is a really special event happening tomorrow by actually the DC College Dems. So the DC College Dems is a consortium of all of the, or whichever colleges in the area choose to partake. And this is led by folks, I believe, at Howard, Catholic, and American University. So all of the folks that are in leadership in this group that are Black are leading this conversation. And they've invited Black DC Dems from all over the country to come and partake and share their experiences as organizers and really share tips and tricks for how to continue organizing, both tactically and then also just emotionally how to continue on during this difficult time. I was actually sure to send this to my alma mater's college group to make sure that they were getting as much exposure as possible, because I think this is going to be a really huge hit. And then we wanted to list a couple other actions that your organization can take around racial justice as it pertains to Mobilize. So just a couple big bucket strategies that we've seen folks implement quite well. The first is matching donations. So if you're already using Mobilize, you know how easy it is to promote the work of other organizations on the platform. If you see that another organization is hosting a is hosting a fundraiser using Mobilize, you can actually co-host that so that whenever a donation comes in, you will catch that, of course, in the back end of your Mobilize account, and you'll be able to match it. The second thing is just promoting any sort of event. So the same technical setup, but rather than matching the donations, just promoting the events of organizations that you know are engaging in really important racial justice work right now. Something else that is not listed here, but I've seen groups do really well, is once you have set up a call to action, whatever that is, you have the choice to have the redirect go to either an Act Blue link or any donation link that you choose. So I know recently the Act Blue link that listed, I think, up to 40 bail funds has been really popular. I know a lot of my colleagues and I donated to that one. So if you wanted to leverage that Act Blue redirect, that might generally go to your organization or your campaign and have it go directly to that bail fund consortium, that's a really excellent way to have your call to action for your own organization's work, and then have the redirect go to supporting racial justice and the movement that is so important right now. If you have any other ideas or questions about how to do this on the site or just strategically, my email will be at the end of this presentation, and I would really, really love to help you. So please do reach out. The next topic or category of events that I'll go over is safe in-person events. So as many cities and towns begin to open up, we're seeing a lot of groups hold in-person events, obviously still in keeping with social distancing guidelines. So the first was Action PAC's Run with Mod event. This was all over the internet, had hundreds of thousands of signups, and they specifically in the event description asked folks to run on their own and not with anybody else if they are in a place obviously where it is safe for them and if they feel safe. And everyone that participated pledged on the event on Mobilize to run and then send in any selfies or photos if they chose to partake. This happened a couple of weeks ago on Mother's Day, as many of you probably know. Helping Hands is a really wonderful nonprofit out in LA that started around COVID. They are connecting volunteers with folks that are homebound due to COVID, whether they're elderly or immunocompromised, whatever the reason may be. And they are asking able-bodied volunteers who generally have access to a car or perhaps a bike or a scooter to safely, contact-free, drop off groceries, medicine, whatever that is, to folks, again, who are homebound. I actually did this in DC because I have a bike. It was really easy. I left it on the person's front stoop. They came in, they washed the bag off, and then they were able to take it in. So Helping Hands, as I said, they're based in LA, but they are hosting their basically volunteer matchups all over the country. So if you are interested, be sure to check them out. This is the Arizona Education Association's Thanking Teachers petition. This was really clever. They wanted to thank teachers for all of the work that they have put in, especially over the last couple months as teachers adjust to virtual learning. So this was an in-person event. Folks had to bring their own pen and their own pencil and their own protective gear to sign these petitions that would then be delivered to teachers to show gratitude and appreciation for their hard work. This was enormously successful. They brought in a lot of people across the state to participate in this event. Town halls. So we love town halls. We make sure to always showcase a couple in these presentations. This week, or this happened a couple of weeks ago, this was a Tele-Town hall hosted by the NEA. They were able to get some pretty exciting guest speakers like Kamala Harris, and you can see Bradley Whitford over there on the right, amongst a couple others. This was a town hall where they were really specific on calls to actions that citizens can take around a particular issue. So this was really helpful, I think, for folks who are new to the advocacy space. They want to help, but they just don't know how, and perhaps they're not acutely attuned to how Congress works and how bills pass through. So Senator Harris was really, really helpful in explaining the nuts and bolts of how a bill is passed and how we as advocates can facilitate that passage around bills and pieces of legislation that we care about. This was a health justice town hall. So Persist Brooklyn is an organization that a lot of folks in Mobilize, because they're located in Brooklyn, really love. So folks are always sending these events to our internal Slack channel. This was basically an organization that explained all of the different resources that are available, both physical health and mental health resources across New York. This is another really good example of neighborhood organizing. So even though, of course, it was a virtual town hall, this was specifically for folks who live in New York and are impacted by certain local and state bills that are not relevant to folks who do not live in New York. So they use these specific parameters in Mobilize that made it so that it was only available for folks within a certain zip code to whom this content would actually be relevant. This is a town hall on racial justice. This is NextGen hosted this, their Pennsylvania affiliate. This featured stories, as you can see, from community activists to educate supporters, as so many of us are seeking out right now, to educate supporters on what we can do around racial justice, from where to donate to how to speak about these issues sensitively, but firmly and with conviction. This is coming up. They already have a lot of signups, and I think social recruitment is what they're hoping will drive the most signups here, because folks will say, hey, I just signed up for this. These are resources that I really need right now. It's really important to me. Hey, friend, hey, cousin, whomever you are, do you want to come along too? I think we both have a lot of room to grow here. And now phone banks. So phone banks is something tried and true, whether or not we're in social distancing. This is something that obviously organizations rely on to get the word out. Most phone banks right now are still happening virtually. And let's jump in. So virtual phone bank with Swing Left. So Swing Left always does an excellent job equipping their supporters first with the tools they need before actually diving into the event. So as you can see, this phone bank started off with a supporter training. So here's the script, here's how to phone bank. This is what happens if someone on the phone says this or this to you. So making supporters feel a little bit more confident before they jump into the phone bank, especially for a lot of first timers, which is something that we hear from Swing Left is more and more common as more folks dip their toe into the political space as this year becomes even more draining and hectic and difficult. And then as you can see, they also host separate training for new callers twice a week. So on these trainings, they're not even asking folks to make calls. This is just a half an hour. Here's what phone banking is, and here's how to do it. So again, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to equip your supporters with the necessary resources to make that call to action. Not only are you teaching them how to do it, but obviously you're making them feel supported as your supporters and like real stakeholders in your organization. Flip the Senate Blue with Flip the West. This is another phone bank. This is by Flip the West. And then you can see that there's the Crooked Media logo in the top left. This is an example of an event that was co-hosted. So this is a Flip the West event, but Crooked Media wanted to promote it on their own page, which meant that signups were extremely high because both supporters of Crooked Media and supporters of Flip the West had access to this event and went ahead and signed up. This event is hosted weekly. So we've talked a lot with a lot of our partners about how different timestamps and different cadences at which you're hosting these events can affect turnout. I know Flip the West has been really successful with this call that they've been having every Wednesday because folks don't forget. And because it's once a week, it's Wednesday, it's the middle of the week, they've had a lot of success with this. If anyone wants to talk about why certain time slots or days of the week are more or less successful, I actually love talking about that. If you have any questions, again, reach out. We have a lot of data that we've sifted through in the back end of Mobilize and also just anecdotal conversations that we've had. So please do reach out if that's of interest to you. And then the last thing I'll say about this is that you can see it says, we focus on the Senate, but volunteers can choose from any Senate campaign. So one other best practice we've seen is that folks may have a certain affinity for a certain state. Maybe a family member of theirs lives there who they wish they could flip, and so they want to make calls in that state to make up for that one vote that they may know is going right rather than left. Giving folks a preference is a really good way to, again, make sure that they feel like stakeholders in your campaign and drive up both sign-up rates and drive down drop-off rates if folks feel like they have a preference and they can make the most out of this hour and get exactly what they want out of it. Phoenix Phone Bank with Arizona Ready. This is another phone bank that happens at a particular cadence every Saturday and Tuesday, again, to make sure it's ingrained in people's mental calendars and make it as available to folks as possible, but not evergreen. So something that we've seen is that evergreen events sometimes get fewer signups because folks are not incentivized to show up on a particular day. But when you are hosting it on a particular day, such as Saturday and Tuesday, they mark it on their calendars and they make sure to show up. The other compelling item about this event is that unlike the last phone bank that I showed you where we were focusing on a couple target states, I think that was focusing on 7 Senate races, this Phoenix phone bank is calling folks in Phoenix. So for folks that are particularly vested in their own town or their own city, this is a more attractive event. I want my neighbors to vote this way. I want them to know how important this issue is. So again, certain audiences feel different ways depending on where they're from and what has gotten them into politics in the first place. And offering different opportunities for your supporters is really important, A, for your own data to see what folks like the best, and B, to offer each of your supporters the type of engagement that is most meaningful to them. The last category here is social. This is what we normally end on. These are the events that sometimes are the most fun. A lot of times it's offering your folks a resource, whether it's to communicate with other supporters or to communicate with your own organizers, to basically give back to your supporters and show them how much you continue to appreciate all of the work that they are putting into your organization and into the ultimate cause around which y'all are advocating. This first one is a Netflix viewing party. So this show, it's Hulu, excuse me. Mrs. America was on Hulu. I finished it. I really liked it, not that that matters. So this was a viewing party that folks all called in and watched this show together and then had an opportunity to discuss the show. For those of you who don't know, this is about the trials and tribulations of getting the ERA passed or attempting to get the ERA passed. There was a lot to be discussed after the show, and I know this was a very popular event. This is a fun one. This is yoga with a congressional candidate. So there's been a lot of talk about at-home workouts. I think since COVID started, this is an excellent example of an at-home workout. A lot of folks love yoga. And at the same time, you are getting a chance to get to know your congressional candidate. The candidate herself actually led the yoga class, which is pretty awesome, and I think makes constituents feel like they're getting a piece of what this candidate is like when they're not on the campaign trail or not on the House floor. This gives supporters an opportunity basically just to get to know their neighbors and of course their candidate. And here is a Netflix and chill. So this is this is similar to the Mrs. America event. This is a different show. This is called Political Correctiveness. This is on Netflix, as you can see, and similar to the Mrs. America event, NextGen invited folks to get together, watch this show together, and then have time to both discuss the show. And as you can see on the screen, after the event, they were also sent instructions on how to register to vote. So presumably this show and the discussion encouraged a lot of folks to make sure that their voice is heard this election cycle, which is why they accompanied the information they sent out with voter registration details. Here's where I normally have Q&A, but I am alone in my kitchen recording this, so we'll skip that part. As I said in the beginning, if you are interested in chatting about anything that I went over today, learning about how to improve your current Mobilize account or get a new one, if you are not yet a partner of ours, my email is on the screen. It's kit, K-I-T, very easy, at mobilize.us. We would love to work with any and all progressive organizations, C3s, C4s, or if you're a candidate on the line, we're trying to grow our network as widely as possible to accomplish our mission, which is to make the world as just, inclusive, and democratic as possible. I hope you found this helpful. I hope, again, that you will use the time that you would have spent on this live webinar to give back and to get involved in the racial justice movement. Thank you for your time today. Sending truly my very best to every single one of you on the line, and I hope to be in touch soon.